Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Living Science Podcast, formerly the Human Freedom Project podcast. Okay, so unlike the Human Freedom Project, most episodes of this podcast will be Stefan and I. I'm going to introduce Stefan here in a minute. He's mostly been behind the scenes, but he's coming out, and I'm excited to hang out with him on this podcast. We are going to have guests occasionally, but our mission with this podcast is to explore the world through the lens of living science. Specifically, we aim to make sense of all of our painful experiences as human beings on this podcast, from chronic pain and illness to trauma, financial and economic challenges, social life and relationships, and the many spiritual crises of our time, such as the loneliness epidemic, the meaning crisis, the rise of AI, and government intrusion in all aspects of life, because it is all connected. So I've called myself a pain advocate for over 20 years now, and it is my conviction that if we want freedom, we have to turn towards pain. And with this podcast, Stefan and I hope to inspire you to turn towards pain in all of its forms in order to learn, heal, and evolve with us. And we're very excited to have you along for this adventure. This is our very first episode of the new podcast, and I wanted to start us off talking about really where the idea for the School for Living Science came from. So I've just founded a school, Stefan and I together. He's my co-founder here. We kind of launched it in beta form last year. And now we're coming out with this podcast, the Living Science Podcast. And so this idea or ideal called Living Science is something I want to share with the world. I want you to know what it is. I want to speak from it. I want to teach from it on this podcast. And where it originated for me was the healing arts. And it is my opinion that the healing arts are broken. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Now, for those of you that maybe don't know me or you're kind of new here, I've been in private practice for the last 17 years working with people in pain. I've been using the kinetics methodology in my private practice. I'm the founder of the kinetics methodology, but it was really my own chronic pain that sent me on this path. And in all of the decades of me having my issues, which, today I'm still human, things happen. And so there are still things that I'd like to go get help for, even though I don't have chronic pain anymore. In all of these decades, I've never found a practitioner who will address me as a living whole. So most of the time today, inside the healing arts, we have practitioners that are trained to apply generic modalities to all of their clients and patients equally, or they're trained in only one part of the human body. For example, in the Western medical world, it's super common, right, to have experts who are podiatrists who only work with feet and they know nothing of the rest of the body, really. Or we have ear, nose, and throat specialists, or we have cardiologists and pulmonologists and liver specialists and brain surgeons, and everybody specializes in one part. There are very few people that know about the whole. Now, this is true despite the fact that in the last at least 10 years, I would say, but I mean, if you go back even a few hundred years in history, it was pretty well known, I think, to most of humanity that everything's connected, that the body is the body. There's a unified human being, human organism there. And it's really only been the rise of modern material science that has wanted to strip the human body, the living world of all that is holy, and then divide it up into its tiniest parts. So when I opened my private practice, I was determined to do things differently. I wanted to address my clients as unified wholes, and I became a scientist and began speaking about what I was doing in my private practice as a kind of a researcher. My office became a living lab. I started writing about it on Facebook. I started talking to everybody about, the whole human organism, and I've been unlicensed since 2011. And much to my surprise, this made me a lot of enemies. People have been pretty upset with me, apparently, for daring to address the whole human being, the whole human organism. So I've learned a lot about what it's like to be on the patient side of things. I've learned a lot about what it's like to be a practitioner who works with people in pain. Many of those people in pain also come with health issues. So today we are going to talk about why I believe the healing arts are broken, and then what our vision is for bringing about a renewal of the healing arts with this podcast and the school. So, Stefan, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here. Yeah. This is, I was telling you before we got started here, it's a little, it feels big, what we're trying to bring forward. It feels a little intimidating. So I'm happy to be here and we have a lot to unpack.
Yeah. So, well, first, how does it feel to be out?
To come out?
To come out.
Yeah.
To be on the podcast with me.
It feels good. It feels like a long time coming. And yeah, it feels good. I'm not sure what else to say about it other than like, let's see what comes of it. Like,
so a lot of people have known your name for like years
Yeah.
and kind of seen pictures of you here and there, and then occasionally seen you on Zoom. And up until this last year, even when you were on Zoom, you were kind of like silent and hanging out in the background and just there.
Yeah. I'm not that quiet.
Not in real life. And so maybe what I want to share with people about our relationship and why I want to do this podcast with you is, as you know, and just want to share this with everyone listening, you and I have been having all kinds of really fun, interesting conversations since the day we met, basically. On our first date, we talked about everything from chemtrails and human consciousness to reincarnation and karma, I think, past lives and stuff like that.
I'll sit like Ida Portal and Wim Hof somewhere in between.
Yeah. And I love that about you and our relationship. The kinds of conversations we have, we can go anywhere. It's fun. And you ask really good questions that prompt me to think and get me thinking about things in ways maybe I wouldn't otherwise. And what a lot of people don't know, which they're going to find out on our series podcast called Kinetics, so we're going to have another series on this podcast all about kinetics, is that you've also shaped my work. So I wouldn't be here doing and teaching kinetics the way that I do today or starting a school if I hadn't met you.
I know that now.
So it feels really nice to bring you out and to have these conversations publicly and then to invite other people to join us.
Feels nice to come out.
So welcome everybody to, we'll see how this goes, us doing this publicly, putting these conversations out there. But so the healing arts are broken. That's what we're going to talk about today. And then what our vision is for a renewal of the healing arts. So, Stefan, you were just telling me before we started recording how, like, a little bit about your orientation to this. You're not a practitioner. So, like, why are you here? Why do you care about this?
Yeah. Well, I have been someone in pain, someone who's had illnesses and issues that I went to practitioners for. And I've had some bad experiences. And I've had some experiences that were okay, but not healing. And when I look around, I see pretty much everyone that I know is in some kind of pain or experiencing some kind of illness.
Yeah.
And most people are just suffering through it or desperate for relief or but I think what's common is most people don't know why they're in pain and why they're hurting, and that's one of the most difficult parts. Especially if you're aware that you don't know why and you really need to know why in order to change what's happening. So interestingly enough, I think like just my own journey with pain and illness and encountering practitioners on the one hand, and sort of being avoidant of the healing arts, the whole healing world, has made me realize what's wrong in part. And then I think that I've also been someone who's like, well, I don't know what to do about that. And I think I didn't really know what to do about that until I met you and started asking a lot of questions and started reading Rudolf Steiner, who has a lot to say about a lot. So, including healing, medicine, science. So I think that's why I'm here mostly is like, I want to understand pain and illness, for myself and more broadly. And then like explore kind of what's gone wrong in the world of science and healing. And then also you seem to have something to say about how to do it right. And like I said, so does Steiner. And so I want to support that.
Well, I don't just want to say something about it, although this is a podcast, so this is where I will be saying a lot about it.
Yeah.
but I want to do something about it.
Yeah. And
that is also why I'm here recording this podcast and why I started the School for Living Science.
Yeah.
So where do we start with this? The healing arts are broken. What do I mean by that? And I'm curious when I say that, those of you listening, do you instantly know what I mean? Do you agree? Maybe when I say it, you just have your own experience that you filter it through, but you're like, yeah, they're broken. Or maybe like a friend of mine that I was just talking to the other day, maybe your eyebrows get raised a little bit and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's broken? Like, I don't know. Is it broken? So, I am curious definitely if you guys comment to know what you think about this, because I just think it's such a critical issue of our age. And
I think what I'd be curious to hear is like what comes to mind when you hear that expression, the healing arts are broken.
Yeah, and why do you guys maybe think it's broken? I'm going to tell you why I think it's broken.
I'm sure you will.
But this is the thing. So this is going to be kind of like a complainy podcast. Like I'm going to get it off my chest in this episode. But mostly with this podcast, I don't want to complain. I want to do something productive. I want to share what I've learned, share what I know, grapple with difficult concepts, but model what it might look like to pursue with conviction that we can know. Mm-hmm. That we can know why we're sick. And that once we know why, we can do something about it. Or know what we can't do. Because if there's nothing that can be done, then we just accept it. And, there are instances where that might be the best choice.
I think that's part of why I was drawn to you and to Rudolf Steiner, is because I think there was a part of me that knew we could know. Like that we could know how we function and what we can do when we encounter pain, illness.
Yeah, so let's talk about that in the context of the healing arts. So when I say the healing arts are broken, I'm actually referring to all of the healing arts, whether they call themselves that or not. So I mean Western medicine, hospitals, doctors, physicians, psychiatrists, psychotherapists, licensed practitioners of all kinds, and every form of quote unquote alternative therapies and healing arts. In my opinion, the whole thing is broken.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is we have, while there's a lot of nuance to this, and I'm not trying to make anyone wrong or demonize anyone, I want to paint a picture of what is, get the lay of the land. Like, let's get real. What actually is happening in the healing arts? Let's be very factual about it and unemotional, like whenever possible. Like, let's admit what is. Like, what is happening? What is going on? What are the facts? And when I look out at the world, or when I examine my experiences as a client or patient, the facts that I can sort of gather and put on the table as like puzzle pieces to look at with you guys are we have a plethora of options as patients and clients that span the gamut from very materialistic, scientific opinions and ideas about sickness and pain coming from Western medicine and quote the the scientific institution, which has essentially stripped the human being of all that is holy, and basically it's, in my opinion, dead science. So we have to kill the human being or kill what is alive in order to study it. This is what Western science does, or what modern material science does. And then, for example, we open cadavers, dead people, to study, quote, the body. But a dead body is a very different thing than a living human being.
Yeah, or extract a tissue sample or...
Right. Yeah. Or, I was listening to a podcast the other day because I really like to know what's happening in the scientific world. And this doctor was talking about the latest research on sunlight and vitamin D. And he was talking about some recent studies that have come out where they were studying fleas, I think, and fruit flies to learn about mitochondrial function in the human being. And I just don't, you guys, I don't get it. Do you? I don't get it. I don't feel like a flea. I don't relate to the fruit fly. I don't think that what we can learn about fruit flies in a lab really has any bearing whatsoever on the living human being, personally.
Yeah, I would push back on that just slightly. Well, look, I can hear all of the science nerds, and probably,
and I am, of course, getting emotional right now, so I'll admit that.
And there's probably not too many of you listening, although plenty of people are scientifically minded. And when I say scientifically minded, I don't necessarily mean that in a pure sense, but like maybe they have a greater trust in the institutions of science. And what I can hear those voices saying is something to the effect of, well, yeah, but we have things in common with animals. That's why we study them, which is true. But where I would agree with you is like, there's a lot more to us than fruit flies.
Sure, but by that logic, it would be like saying, well, whales and baboons have a lot in common because they're both animals, so let's learn about baboons by studying whales.
Yeah.
That'd be absurd. Don't you think?
Well, I'm sure there's a few commonalities, but there's a lot that's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'll try to, rein in my emotion.
Don't rein it in. Go for it.
But, so factually speaking, we have medical doctors and practitioners of all kinds that have learned this Western science. Yep. They've learned, they're told what is in school, in textbooks and by professors. They didn't learn it themselves exactly most of the time. I won't say always. Unless you were the actual researcher with the fruit flies, for example. You didn't, whatever was learned there, you didn't learn it yourself. You are now reading it in a science paper. And then obviously most of those practitioners are taught to diagnose human beings presenting with certain symptoms by what they learned in some kind of manual, or they put the symptoms into some kind of symptom tracker and it spits out like, oh, you probably have this diagnosis. Look, I don't know how it works exactly because I actually don't go to doctors like that myself. But basically you take yourself to a doctor, they give you a diagnosis because they're taught to diagnose things based on a set of symptoms that, correspond to a diagnosis. And then there's a prescription that is offered that goes along with the diagnosis. That's pretty much how it always goes. I mean, there are exceptions. So that's on one extreme. Yeah. But then in between, we would have things like naturopathic doctors and functional medicine doctors who, I have been to some of those. and they also diagnose you
Yeah.
and then give you supplements, which
Sounds similar.
in my opinion, is very similar. I don't know that it's that different, other than the potential harm from supplements is not as great as the potential harm from side effects of medications.
Yeah.
Or surgeries, or cortisone injections, or any number of other things that they might provide. So we've got that on the one hand, but then we kind of come to the middle of the road, and I would say that's the naturopaths and the chiropractors and maybe some physical therapists, depending, and some psychotherapists, licensed practitioners. And then we have, going all the way to the other extreme, I would say, are things like medicine journeys, and take your pick: ayahuasca, mushrooms. I don't know.
Yeah, probably a little closer to the middle, like holotropic breath work.
Right, and there's that. But I would say that almost without exception, undoubtedly there are some exceptions, but almost without exception, what all of these practitioners are really offering the clients and patients is deliverance.
Yeah. Relief,
deliverance from suffering, the cessation of symptoms.
Yeah.
And some people, I'm sure, would argue that an ayahuasca journey gives you answers. You've done it. I haven't.
I was about to say.
I don't see how that I could argue against that. But look, I'm not here to make anyone wrong for what they're choosing and pursuing for themselves. I just want to share what I think and believe. So those are all just examples of like one thing that's really wrong in my opinion, is that on the practitioner side of things, we're not usually putting clients and patients through processes or methods that provide real answers about why. Why am I the way I am? Why am I sick? Why do I have these symptoms? Why am I in pain? Why is it that I've tried all these things and nothing has worked? And so that, I mean, that was me. I wanted to know why. Like, that was, as a client, patient, person in pain, I wanted to know why.
Yeah. Why do you have to be so annoying as a patient? I joke, but we've talked a lot about this. I think you're very confronting for a lot of practitioners.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't understand why asking why is confronting. I mean, I kind of do.
We can get into that.
And this is part of the problem, though. Like, this is why I think the healing arts are broken. So, for example, I could rattle off a bunch of examples right now. Everything from, I've been to naturopathic doctors a long time ago, when I was like 20, who I was going to them because I had really bad gut pain and anxiety and systemic tension, and just didn't feel well. I was tired all the time, had no motivation, low drive. And I would get diagnosed with low thyroid or pituitary gland dysfunction through kinesiology or muscle testing, which didn't make any sense to me. I was extremely skeptical. And I'm really open-minded. Like, I believe in reincarnation and karma. But things have to make sense to me. And the muscle testing thing never made any sense to me and still doesn't to this day. And just for the record, I believe in talking to the body, and I believe the body will talk back. But I think we need reliable methods of communication.
Yeah.
And intercepting those messages and interpreting them. And yeah, I was given adrenal bovine supplements for my adrenal burnout, I guess, or what adrenal dysfunction is how they, I think, diagnosed it. And I did not understand whatsoever why I apparently had a deficiency of cow adrenals. Like, I'm a human. Why is my body presenting this way? And how the heck did you learn that from just muscle testing me? And like, it didn't make any sense. And I took the supplements and didn't feel any better. And when I asked them how long I would have to take the supplements, it was like, till you're better. And couldn't just come back every month and we'll retest you. And I'm like, that could be the rest of my life. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I stopped going to those kinds of doctors pretty early in my life. Just didn't, things have to make sense to me. And I don't know, you've had a different experience than that. Like,
with practitioners with the healing arts at large, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like you didn't so much want to know why.
No, I wanted that deliverance. I mean, so I'll share a little bit. But basically, I didn't really even, I mostly avoided doctors until I was in my early 20s, maybe like 22, 23. And, I went a few times when I was growing up, just like you get a, quote, sinus infection, which you later look back on and say, oh, well, it's probably because I was living in the middle of a field with a bunch of pesticides being sprayed. That's neither here nor there. Point is... no,
that matters, though, Like, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which doctor bothered to learn that about you?
Right. Well, they were... Yeah, well... I could go on and on and on. So, I mean, the point is, like, when I was 22, 23, of my own accord, I started seeking out help. I had acid reflux, and that was just one small symptom of what I would call at the time like pretty debilitating anxiety, and that was a symptom of a past that was unresolved and unprocessed. And so my experience was first to go to Western medicine. I went in, put that I had anxiety on the intake form, and also that I was dealing with this acid reflux. Anxiety never addressed. Stuck a tube down my throat. Said, well, we don't see anything structurally wrong. What'll help is this Prilosec OTC. I was an OTC. They said, you need prescription. We'll double the dosage, but same thing. So they gave me medication. I got worse. And so I started like distrusting Western medicine, I think, at that point. And there's something that just felt wrong. Like, this is not, and I tried other over-the-counter stuff as well, but all of it seemed to make me worse. And I think I went back to that guy one more time and then just started to check out. So then my next foray was into, I went to see chiropractors. I don't think I ever sought out functional medicine or anything like that, which is interesting. But I went to a couple of chiropractors because I thought, for some reason, I Googled something and I thought that they could help me with my acid reflux. Still thought that was the problem. And I felt a little bit more met and seen by them, but not really helped. And so I basically kind of just became avoidant of the healing arts after that. It wasn't a conscious decision. I just kind of checked out.
Because you were just like, I don't think they know anything.
Again, it wasn't conscious, but it was just like, I'm
not feeling better.
Yeah, and I'm just, I think especially at that time I was of the mindset like, well, I'll just go research a bunch of things and figure this out on my own or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Major trust issues with, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then on my side of things, you've watched me over the last 10 years, but I certainly did this a lot more even in my 20s. Go in and out of that dance. Like, there's something really wrong. I need help. So I go to a practitioner and I'm so frustrated that they can't answer my questions or tell me why or make what they do make sense to me at all, for how it can help me or give me answers. So then I would just take myself out and say, fine, I'm going to figure this out on my own. But then I would, and sometimes I have figured things out on my own, but there are some things and I'm like, I need help again. So then 1 to 2 years later, I go back and I say, okay, I'm going to really, if I'm going to ask for help, it doesn't make sense to think that they can't help me. That would be stupid. So I'm going to go in there earnestly, trusting that it's possible they could help me. I'm not going to fool myself into believing they will help me. And I've just never had a really positive experience. I've always had to create the positive experiences that I have by kind of asserting myself and really asking them to do things that I believe would help me. And some people don't want to do that, and some people are willing. But yeah, so I want to maybe like rattle off a bunch of things that I believe are related to the healing arts being broken, and then maybe like if there's something that sticks out to you, let's pull it out and talk about it.
Yeah. One thing I just wanted to name that maybe we circle back to this episode, maybe we don't, is like you said there was no point in going back to a practitioner without basically an optimistic orientation. And I didn't do that, and a lot of people don't do that. So maybe we just put a pin in that. But that stood out to me from what you were saying. Like you always had, I don't know if hope is the right word, but
Open.
yeah.
You have to be open.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
It is easy to close off. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've worked with a lot of people like that who come to me closed-minded, skeptical.
Yeah.
And basically they want me to prove their skepticism, doubts, and fears wrong before believing I can help them. That I don't want to be that patient.
No, I mean,
I don't want to.
I'm cringing because I've been that person, but it doesn't help.
Yeah. So, okay. So everything we've been talking about so far is pointing to one of the reasons the healing arts are broken, which is that we live in a pain-phobic culture.
Yeah.
We've demonized pain and illness. We assume there's like a cultural assumption today that it's abnormal, not normal to experience pain or sickness. And that
well, you're probably going to go here, but it was like, how long has it been like that? You know?
I think it's only been like 100 years, 150.
Okay, we'll get into that in a second.
So that's one thing that we could talk about that I want to talk about because that's part of my vision for a renewal of the healing arts is to turn towards pain, as I mentioned in the intro. So coinciding with that, though, we have practitioners who are trained to see pain and illness as abnormalities, as dysfunctions, as something quote unquote wrong. And then, of course, they're trying to help the patients and clients who want deliverance to get deliverance or relief or a cessation of symptoms. And so that whole mindset, I believe, needs to shift for us to have a renewal of the healing arts. Then we've scapegoated, in my opinion, the very source of the wisdom we need to become wise and heal, which is the human organism, the body in pain that we don't understand, the mind, the psyche that we don't understand or know how to help, the relationships that have wounded us that we don't know how to heal, et cetera, et cetera. All right, a quick break to tell you about our kinetics immersion coming up in November of 2025. I'm really excited about this. We're gathering here in Colorado for 6 days to learn and practice kinetics together. If you happen to be catching this podcast after November of 2025, we will have dates for 2026 immersions on the website. So this is a 6-day immersion, and we're going to be learning and practicing partner fascia release and the kinetics mapping methodology together. Kinetics is the method that I've been using since 2011 with all of my clients in my private practice to get them answers and results for chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, anxiety, depression, difficulty detoxing, and unhealed traumas, to name a few. Usually starting in the very first session. This is a very powerful method for getting answers specifically. And in my experience, when we know why we're in pain or why we're sick, we begin healing and we know what to do. So we're going to be partnering up and learning and practicing partner fascia release, which is part of that mapping process, but it is also a tool, a very powerful tool for regenerating the body, for resolving pain, restoring health, releasing traumas, and creating mind-body integrity. These immersions are for you to work on yourself, and they are the starting place of all kinetics practitioners, but you do not need to be a practitioner to join us. You just need to have an open mind and an open heart and a willingness to partner with others towards health and healing. There are only a few spots left for this November immersion as of this filming, so if you're inspired to join us, then head to the link in the description or show notes. I'd really love to meet you in person and spend a whole week together with everyone else that's coming, healing, learning, and growing. So check it out, and I'd love to have you there. Like, we're typically not learning from the source. We're learning, as you said, I'm going to go research.
Yeah.
And so this is fascinating. Like, that makes me want to ask really quick, like, jump off that track and ask you about that. Like, because it always seemed to me, this was my frustration as a patient client. I'm like, but it's right here, and it's in my intake form. Like, I've shared with you everything you need to know for us to start an exploration together to learn. Like, what is happening here? And I always kind of hoped that the practitioners would work with me and invite me into a process of learning from my body, my life, my story, my psyche, my environment, like all the pieces of the puzzle that I could share with them, or that they might be able to learn from my body. That was always my hope. Still my hope. And that's the way that I operate my private practice. But
where did that come from? Whatever that is, I don't think I had it.
Yeah. And so, well, maybe we'll come back to me in a second, but like you were like, let me do research.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the internet.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm a millennial. Give me a break.
I know. Okay. But this is part of it. It's like, This is maybe what's wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
We have been indoctrinated to believe that we cannot be experts on our own body.
Yeah.
That the wisdom could not possibly be inside of me or you. It resides in the brains of the experts, who you can learn from if you go to the internet. As a millennial. When I was sick, when I was 20, it didn't exist. Really. You couldn't learn a whole lot on the internet in 1999 or, 2000.
For sure.
Yeah, but why didn't it occur to you that you could learn something from your very own body?
I think it was, I'm not sure. If I had to guess, it's that it was the thing that was, quote, hurting me. Like, how am I going to learn something from that?
So this is huge, because I think that most people in chronic pain or illness feel like a victim of their body.
Yeah.
Like, my body is the perpetrator. I'm the victim of my body. So I'm going to take my perpetrator body to the doctor so they can get it to stop hurting me. Is that kind of how you...
I wasn't thinking.
I know, but if you look back,
all.
like, if you look back, could you find that soul state? Because I don't think other people are thinking that way either. I think it's just a soul state. It's like,
yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
Like, why is my body doing this to me?
I don't know if it was so much that for me in a way. It was more just like, I don't know where to turn. I'm in pain. Like, this sucks. I just wanted relief. It wasn't really even a part of my experience to be angry at my body.
Now, let me ask you a question. So
another one.
Yeah.
All right.
You were in pain. So I just wanted relief.
Yeah.
Like, so it wasn't, you did have pain when I met you, sciatica, knee pain, but you're talking right now, I think you're referring more to the acid reflux or the...
Yeah, anxiety, terrible gut pain. Yeah.
Yeah. So did it ever occur to you to research pain?
No.
This is so fascinating to me.
I think I did. I researched anxiety a little bit, and that sent me down like some psychology rabbit holes. But
so this is also, I believe, why the healing arts are broken, because there are tons and tons of people in pain, millions and millions and millions and millions of people, many of you probably listening, lots of you in my audience, people who've learned with me or been hanging out with me a long time. Like there's this tendency to want to learn about fascia if you're in pain.
Yeah.
Because you think fascia release or working with your fascia will help you get out of pain. But for some reason, most people don't think to themselves, I'm in pain. Maybe I should learn about pain. Like the nature of pain, the science of pain. What is pain?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to very consciously and clearly orient myself that way.
I think it's that there's just these assumptions about, well, there's not much thought. It's like pain. It's that thing that nobody likes. It sucks. There's all kinds of different reasons for it, and then I should look into what all those reasons are. I think that's sort of the default.
It's really
layer.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
We just look for things we can do to get rid of it, but we never think to penetrate the phenomenon itself to actually understand what pain itself is.
Well, it's interesting because it seems like in the realm of the psyche, there's a greater, even on like a really, really basic level, people understand that it takes adversity to grow.
Yeah.
And that's painful. But when it comes to when you start thinking about the body, no one thinks along those lines. Yeah. I didn't. Most people don't.
Okay, so we kind of went on a tangent there. We went on the tangent because I was saying we have scapegoated the source, which is the body in pain that we don't understand. So it always felt intuitive to me that if my body was expressing pain, then it is the source of the wisdom I need to heal. And I always wanted practitioners to help me learn from my body what it was trying to tell me.
You asked me
Yeah.
my orientation, but obviously that's not a typical orientation. To assume that your body, that the answers are inside you. And that if with the right kind of help and orientation, you can learn from your body directly. Maybe you could even share a little bit about what that means to you.
Yeah, well, I'm very kinesthetic. So as a kid, my body, it felt like I was learning about the world through my body, not my mind.
Yeah.
And so my body was like the instrument of learning for me and adventure. And so I'd, climb trees and do gymnastics and ride my bike all over town and steal my brother's skateboard and ride it down the steepest hill I could find. And I just loved all the feelings I could experience in my body. And I loved exploring the world through my body, touching trees and the tactile experience of that and the thrill in my body of going down a hill. Those are, so I'm very kinesthetic. But then I think, I've told this story so many times, but journaling is one of the things that helped me the most on my emotional healing, for my emotional healing. Talk therapy didn't work for me. Didn't like it. Stopped doing it in my 20s. But journaling was extremely healing for me. And I started journaling at age 24 very intentionally to heal. And very shortly into that journaling phase of my life, I think I journaled every day for 2.5 years. Shortly into that experience, I wrote the words, "I am utterly traumatized." And I was terrified to write the words so there was like tons of anxiety rising up, like practically gripping my throat, because I think even when we're writing, we kind of like mouth the words and we hear them and it's almost, we could potentially speak them. And And there's a part of me that believed if I admitted that truth, that I would never get out of it. I would never escape from the abyss of it. It would swallow me whole, and that would be it. My life would be over. Instead, as soon as those words came out on the page, I noticed my body relax. And literally in that instant, my whole life changed.
Did you know, I don't think I've ever asked you this before, but did you know in that moment, like, was there a thought that came through your head, oh, my body holds some kind of answer?
Yes.
Interesting.
It was, I can tell you specifically what it was. I, in that moment, I instantly knew at an intuitive level that if I wanted freedom, I was going to need to turn towards every painful event of my life. And if I did, just like that moment, my body would reward me with more peace.
Well, that's interesting because in a way, it's like, that's still, the way I hear that is that's still somewhat of a relief orientation. Was it for you? Well, okay, that's really interesting. I guess that's sort of the way that I process it. Okay, if I turn towards pain, then I can get relief, like it's a formula. But that's not what your experience was.
No, I knew in that moment, because of this experience I just described of like the anxiety, not wanting to write the words.
Yeah.
Like I was terrified. Like terror gripped me before writing the words.
Mm-hmm.
Then after getting them out, my body relaxed, which was like a miracle for me. Up until this point, I was gripped by chronic tension every day, like someone was winding me up in a vice that was getting tighter and tighter every single day. I had jaw pain and knee pain and gut pain, and but more than that, I had this feeling of being haunted and hunted. Like I literally felt like something was hunting me, like I was being chased, and whatever was chasing me was squeezing me tighter and tighter from the inside. And so the fact that my body relaxed when I wrote those words was like, whoa, I just admitted something I didn't want to admit to myself. What else do I need to admit to myself? And this was a very conscious thought that I had in my head at the time. I probably even wrote it in a journal somewhere. I thought to myself, if it takes me the rest of my life, that's okay. I now know how to orient. Like I know, just how to orient, which is I'm orienting to truth no matter how painful that truth is. Because it was really painful to admit that I was utterly traumatized. Because in that moment, even though I relaxed, I didn't know what I was supposed to do about it.
And that your body holds that truth.
Yes.
Those answers.
No, more like, maybe, but that my body knows truth.
Yeah.
That we feel truth in the body. And that's when I learned if we want freedom, we have to turn towards pain.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like why you would have that orientation.
Yeah, and so like for example, we could use this as an example. So I was 24 at the time. It was 2004 when I wrote those words in my journal. I had been to talk therapy. I'd been to a hypnotherapist. I'd been to the naturopathic doctor that I mentioned who put me on a bunch of supplements. I'd been to a chiropractor. I'd been to a hypnotist. And none of these practitioners ever once, not one of them, talked about emotions or trauma or asked about anything other than my physical symptoms in their intake forms. Obviously, the therapist talked to me about my trauma, but never once connected it to my physical body. And so at age 24, it was just so incredibly obvious to me that it was all related, that I was never going to go to another practitioner unless they addressed me as a whole, or unless I felt like I couldn't get what I needed without that practitioner, but I would be addressing myself as a whole, even if they weren't. So like I might take myself to a chiropractor who's not addressing my emotions, but I'm going to be addressing my emotions while I'm at the chiropractor's, as an example. That didn't exactly happen. But so yeah, like we're a unified whole. And I those kinds of inquiries and making connections between things isn't typically what happens. Or and because sometimes it does happen. Because I want to give credit where credit is due. And of course, we live in a world right now, we're learning so much and about everything being connected and the mind-body connection and the connection between trauma and chronic pain or chronic disease and illness. And there are lots of people doing research on that and talking about it in ways that I think are helpful or illuminating to some degree. But I lost my train of thought there. What the heck was I going to say?
I know something that's top of mind for me if you don't have it, but what comes to mind for me is like now, I mean, when you were going through all of that, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting like how much has changed.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
I was just going to say that even though we're kind of admitting this and we know everything's connected, we still just like stop short of like pursuing that knowledge further than just like we know it's connected. But we don't know exactly how, and we don't exactly know what to do about it. So like I mentioned, there might be some practitioners out there, maybe even some of you listening, who are like, I know that either, my pain is connected to my trauma, but I don't know what to do about it. Or maybe you're a practitioner and you're like, well, I know my clients have mind-body disconnection issues, or I know that their pain or their illness is connected to trauma, but like, what the heck do we do about it? And so that is another reason the healing arts are broken, in my opinion, because we don't like not knowing. And so because we don't like not knowing, what I see happening mostly is, well, let's just try this technique. Let's try this other protocol. Let's try this modality. Let me, as a practitioner, let me get certified in nervous system, whatever, like holotropic breath work, or let me do this other thing. And we're just throwing the kitchen sink at symptoms still. So anyway, that was my point. So
why do you think, what comes to mind for me when you say that is, why do you think that some modalities work sometimes?
Sure.
And when they work, you just said, we don't like not knowing. Why is the impulse not to say, why did that work? Because my experience and observation has been that it's just like, thank God that worked.
Yeah. So that's how most people feel, including me, when something works.
Yeah.
But then the pain comes back. Mm-hmm. And that's when people go, what the hell? Like, that worked, but now the pain came back. And this is so common. You go to a chiropractor, you feel better, the pain comes back. You go to a massage therapist, you feel better, the pain comes back. So that's called pain management. And I don't do pain management for myself or my clients. And I think we can do so much better than pain management. So there are lots of things that we can do that quote unquote work to eliminate symptoms or bring a little bit of relief, temporary relief. Maybe it's like 50% reduction in pain and then it comes back. 50% isn't 100%, it's 50%. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know if you were going to go anywhere specific with that, but
no.
But it had to do with the why. Like, we want to know why.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just interesting that we always seem to stop short of why.
Well, I actually think we're kind of scared of positive results without a why, but it's a really deeply subconscious fear. It'd be, and the metaphor,
because who's in control? What's in control?
Exactly. And the metaphor I've always used, it would be like, because we're talking about people in pain, people with illnesses, people with anxiety, trauma, whatever, right? So we all have a relationship to our body. So it's a relationship. It's a two-way thing, right? And so this metaphor that I use to describe why I think it kind of freaks us out to feel better but not know why is it'd be like, imagine that you're in a relationship with a human being, an intimate one, a partnership, a romantic relationship, and it's not going well. You and your partner are fighting all the time, like they're really irritable, they don't treat you very well, you're not really sure why. Obviously, I'm saying like that's like your body.
Yeah.
And then one day you maybe try something and suddenly they're like the happiest person, they're just loving all over you, they've like changed dramatically. They're like a totally different person and they're everything you've ever wanted them to be, but it's out of the blue.
Yeah.
You'll be like, are you cheating on me?
I mean, it's so obvious.
Like, what the hell is going on? Like, it's like you would want to know why. Like, what happened? Why are you suddenly being the person I wanted you to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be suspicious.
Right.
So we get suspicious of positive things that happen when we don't know why they're happening. Isn't that interesting? It makes sense to me, though.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you put it in the context of a relationship.
Yeah. And so the same thing is true of our body. It's exactly what you said. Who's actually in control here?
Yeah.
Like, why are you suddenly acting weird? Like, weirdly positive, right? It'd be like, body, why are you acting weirdly positive all of a sudden? And then we get suspicious.
Yeah.
And so then often the symptoms come back. We just want to know why. So I think we want to know why because we're living in an age where that is appropriate to our spiritual evolution, which is kind of a deep answer to that question.
For sure.
And we'll unpack that in other episodes. But okay, so let's kind of like recap what we talked about here, because I know there are a few other things I wanted to get at just looking at my notes.
For sure.
So we live in a pain phobic culture. We, for example, I sprained my arm when I was 7 doing gymnastics, and my mom was like, "Oh my God, honey, oh no," and took me to a doctor to put my arm in a little sling, and then she took me out of gymnastics because she didn't want me to get hurt again. And I was devastated. And in that moment, I learned if you do something you love and you get injured, it means you stopped getting to do what you love. And so as a result of that, I actually just stopped doing things I loved. I just stopped, because I figured, well, it's going to get taken from me because I'll probably get injured. Which, I was totally subconscious. I was 7. But that's one example of like pain phobia. My mom didn't say to me, "Oh, well, you got injured, but your body's amazing. It can regenerate. It can heal. You've got an inbuilt doctor in your body called your blood, and it's going to come in there and gobble up those, dead tissues, and it's going to repair your arm, and then you'll be back in gymnastics in no time." Nope, she didn't say that.
It's really fascinating, too, because actually I know that your mom, unlike a lot of parents, actually did do that with you when it came to illness. Like, you've told me stories about your food that, am I recalling this correctly?
Well, I don't know that, my mom definitely was very holistic and very, it didn't make me afraid of my body in that way with sickness. Mm-hmm. But I kind of think those diet things were me. I don't know. We can ask my mom. Mm-hmm. So just in case you guys are wondering, I got sick a few times as a kid, whooping cough once, and just told my mom, I think I was 6 at the time or 7, so similar age. I was like, "Mom, you need to feed me pasta with red sauce with as much red pepper as possible. That's what I need to heal my lungs." And it worked. It was really nice eating very, very, very spicy pasta sauce when you have whooping cough. Anyway. So we live in a pain phobic culture. Both clients and clients/patients and practitioners tend to demonize pain and illness. So what I want to do with this podcast, because this is my orientation, this is the mission I'm on, is to normalize pain and illness. Pain and illness and trauma. So when I say pain, I mean all pain, painful emotions, painful, traumatic events, and physical pain, of course, are as natural as day and night. What comes up for you when I say that?
Not a lot now.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Heard it a million times.
I mean, that is what comes up, but pain is as natural as day and night. I guess it's like, well, that doesn't make it any more easy to deal with. Although, actually, that's not true.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's our rejection of these experiences that is a spiritual sickness.
Yeah.
And that spiritual sickness has an impact on our physical organism.
Yeah.
Individually and collectively. And of course, also on our mindset and how we approach these things. So we're going to talk about that on many, 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 many episodes. Probably not today. But I do believe that to bring about a renewal of the healing arts, we need both practitioners on the one hand and clients and patients on the other, who, instead of trying to eliminate symptoms or get relief or deliverance, turn towards that painful experience to learn from it.
Yeah.
And this would create a participatory science between client and practitioner, where they both work together to find answers and solutions and remedies. That's what I've been doing for the last 17 years.
From the body, the client's life.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah.
Their environment, their relationships, their mindset, their beliefs, their worldview, their hobbies, their sports, all of it. All of it matters.
Yeah.
It's all relevant information for what's happening here. So that's one way we can bring about a renewal of the healing arts, and that I'm going to do my part with this podcast to shed light on, pain, illness, sickness, trauma, the whole human organism. Why do we get sick? What is the true nature and purpose of pain? Because as I mentioned, learning about fascia when you're in pain is a little misguided. It's not I would highly recommend learning about pain if you're in pain.
Yeah.
Or if you're sick, learning about the nature and purpose of sickness.
That's been the most significant thing that I think that I've learned from you, is how to orient to pain. It changes your whole experience. And maybe we'll get into this later, but a lot of it has to do with fear.
Yeah. And so, yeah. For another podcast.
For sure. Pain-phobic culture.
Pain-phobic culture. Obviously, I'm under no delusions that with this tiny little podcast and our tiny little community right now, it is pretty small. But I love you guys and thank you for being here. I aspire to change things 2 people at a time. So what I mean by that is either me and you listening right now, we're 2 people who, maybe even though we're not working together exactly, we're grappling together with concepts that can help you learn, heal, and evolve. But more specifically, my real mission is to change this paradigm and to bring about a renewal of the healing arts, 1 client and practitioner at a time, because it does take both of those people to change this paradigm and to bring about a renewal of the healing arts. It cannot happen in a one-sided way. It will require that patients and clients come to the healing experience, to the healing path with a different mindset and a different orientation of turning towards whatever's painful to learn from it. And then it will require that practitioners also have that mindset so that they're on the same page, aiming at the same thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously like learning from the source, as I mentioned, instead of scapegoating the body, mind, or relationship we don't understand. Something we didn't talk about too much yet is, science. We talked about it a little bit and how a lot of practitioners tend to jump on the latest, scientific trends and bandwagons. For example, nervous system stuff is all the rage, and fascia had its moment a while back, and so we're going to talk about science on this podcast. I don't want to get too much into it, but what I maybe do want to say is that personally, I think, if we're going to learn how to heal as human beings, whether we're a client or patient or the practitioner, we have to know what a human being is.
That sounds like a very tall order.
Yes. So one of the first principles of living science as a way of knowing, so living science is a way of knowing. It's a method for knowing truth that I have codified. One of the first principles is to understand the body, the human body. We have to know what a human being is.
Yeah, it makes logical sense. But when you start to unpack that, it's...
Because we're not fruit flies.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's not even what I meant, but it's like, what do you mean when you say that? Because there's a lot to a human being.
Yeah. Well, so it's a really big topic, obviously. It is one that has gripped human beings for millennia. What are we? What does it mean to be human? Why are we here?
So the kind of the point of what you're saying, though, is like through your private practice, through Rudolf Steiner, who's been a big influence for you, you feel like it's like what you said you've codified, and we talked about this a lot, is it's a way of knowing truth. It's a way of coming to know things about what a human being is.
From the source.
The source, yeah.
Yes. And so I'm not claiming to know everything there is to know when we ask the question, what is a human being?
Right. It's not like, don't go into private practice until you know everything there is to know about a human.
But I am saying, to understand the body of a human being, we have to know what a human being is.
Yeah.
And otherwise, there is no understanding. We can observe things.
Mm-hmm.
We can think about the things we observe, but that doesn't mean we know. Doesn't mean we understand. And so that obviously that's what a lot of this podcast is going to be. I want to share what living science is.
Yeah.
With all of you listening. I want to share what we can know through living science. I want to model what it looks like to actually think with reality, which is living science. And so that will all happen on future episodes. But maybe where we can end, because I feel like we have to talk about this on this podcast episode, is government regulation of the healthcare, the healing arts and health, and
This is going to be a 4-hour ending. Go ahead.
And let's see. Just checking to make sure. Yeah, well, we already covered that. Yeah, so that's basically it. And there are a few like tangents or branches from that. So, sure. This is also, though, a major reason why the healing arts are broken, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we currently live in a culture that is not only pain phobic, but we're actually taught, don't Google it, go to the doctor, right? Like, don't confuse yourself by reading.
Well, if you Google it now, it's just going to say go to the doctor.
Right. We're taught to outsource authority to experts.
Yeah.
And those experts are supposedly regulated by the government. So we're outsourcing authority also to the government. And as practitioners, we outsource authority to the government to give us permission to be a practitioner. So I don't do that because I have a very strong conviction that healing starts by sourcing authority from within. Freedom is fundamentally a byproduct of sourcing authority from within. abiding by your conscience and not outsourcing authority to external, quote, experts or people who are supposed to keep you safe. So that's the government side of things. So the government regulates the healing arts because they're, quote unquote, keeping people safe.
Yeah.
And then practitioners outsource authority to the government by asking for permission, by applying for a license.
Yeah.
And then by accepting the contract of the license, practitioners agree to abide by the rules of the regulating body, the licensing body, which is a government organization, a government body. And this is true of massage therapists who are licensed, psychotherapists who are licensed, medical doctors, chiropractors, you name it. Dentists. I recently went to a dentist who said, well, I have to abide by the rules, so as long as you sign away your life and you agree not to hold me liable, I'll let you not take antibiotics.
Yeah.
Hey, at least he was willing to let me do that. But a lot of people aren't. A lot of doctors aren't. They're like, nope, I have to follow the rules. And so practitioners are limited by their scope of practice. And I can't think of a single licensed profession right now, maybe you can think of one, that isn't mandated by the rules of their licensing body to stay within the scope of their practice. So, for example, a psychotherapist is legally forbidden from touching their patients. They're legally...
In particular ways, yeah.
Well, I think period.
Well, I don't think that I looked into this a little bit, but like I can shake my therapist's hand. I can give him a hug.
Okay, sure.
But
right.
You venture into massage territory, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Exactly. Or doing any kind of somatic practices or anything like that that involves touching them. And then massage therapists, on the other hand, are legally forbidden from addressing the psyche, the soul, the mind, emotions, trauma, anything like that. You know, when I was in massage school, I was told if one of your clients has an emotional release, just let it happen, but you can't do anything about it. Don't talk to them. You're not a therapist. Don't offer to help. Don't console them. Don't, just like let it happen. Like, it's fucking inhumane, inhuman, and weird to me. And then this is why I was condemned by so many people and looked at as an enemy of all the licensed practitioners in my surroundings, because I was being vocal about addressing the nervous system, and which is the domain and territory of psychotherapists or obviously like neuroscientists, but it was psychotherapists who felt threatened by that. And then on the other hand, I was working with people in pain, which would make me a physical therapist by law. Because as a massage therapist, I was also told we don't cure people. The best we can do is make them feel better while they're on the table. So like, that's what we're up against. Like that, if you're a massage therapist in the United States anyway, it's probably different in other countries. You're literally told you can't cure anyone, you can't fix them. If they have a spontaneous remission of chronic pain, well, great, but you didn't do it. And you can't claim to do that. And you certainly can't do it on purpose. You can't, tell people you get people out of pain.
Why do you think practitioners are so threatened by someone saying, hey, I'm going to do it all. Like whatever, I'm going to engage with a human being. And if something comes up that spans the gamut from touch to what you might encounter normally in like psychotherapy, okay, like that's a human in front of me, so I'm going to face it. Like, why is that a threat?
I mean, you'd have to ask them personally, but I can guess that, one of them, a physical therapist, she actually came to me as a patient. Mm-hmm. Client. But then didn't want to come back. And she confronted me, which is fine. Like, hey, if you're going to confront me to my face. So I respect her for that. Mm-hmm. But she literally asked me, what gives you the right to do what you're doing when I had to pay $200,000? Like, where did you learn this? And I was like, well, I took some workshops, but I mostly researched this myself and figured it out myself. And she goes, that doesn't feel right to me. I paid so much money to get this license. So she literally just told me flat out that was her reason for feeling threatened and telling me I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
That's interesting.
And yeah, I think probably similarly, like, I don't know, they're just really protective of like, psychotherapy belongs in psychotherapy. I mean, psychotherapy is a whole different thing because psychotherapists are, in my, like, I don't know, a different breed of people, I think. And I'm not trying to, but my experience typically is there are a lot of projections onto traumatized people in the psychotherapy world that I can't stand personally when I'm the patient or client. About like, we got to titrate and we got to be really careful and we got to not re-traumatize people. We got to like, not, you know, and obviously we should be mindful. We should take responsibility. We should have care with what we're doing and do things, you know, with a sense of responsibility. But I don't think that we should treat people with kid gloves like they're super fragile.
Yeah.
We're not as fragile as we think we are. And I think I've always treated people like that. And I think to some degree they're threatened by that.
Yeah. So we were talking about, I got us off on a little bit of a tangent, but we were talking about, regulation.
Yeah.
And then sort of why we're in the pickle that we're in.
Yeah. And so this is I believe why. So this is why the healing arts are broken, in addition to everything else we've touched on today and probably many things we forgot to talk about. But I do not believe healing can happen when you're outsourcing authority to somebody else.
Right.
Personally, I just don't think that can happen. I think that healing happens.
Well, it's the same thing that we talked about earlier, which is like, who did that? Well, maybe you think it's the practitioner if you feel like you know, or they did some magic thing to you, and then it's like, why did that happen?
And so, look, I'm just going to come out right and say it. I think that a lot of practitioners have become practitioners because they want godlike powers to, quote, heal people. It's egotistical. If you feel powerful, probably to some degree, that
or loved,
or loved, or valued, or valuable, or whatever. And I'm not trying to like totally demonize them or say they're malicious people. It's probably largely unconscious.
Yeah.
But and then they, if they're that kind of practitioner, they allow clients to outsource authority to them. They like it. Like, I mean, the dentists I just went to, for example, absolutely wanted me to outsource authority to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually like their rule. Like, you must submit to our authority to be a patient. And I'm like, no, I won't. And so like on the medical side of things, that is the norm. You outsource authority, you know, you basically sign your life away and you're in our hands and you abide by our rules. Then on the alternative healing arts side of things, we still allow, you know, patients and clients to outsource authority. We're a lot of the time there's the mindset of like, well, I'm the practitioner. I'm supposed to be an expert. I'm supposed to know everything. They're turning to me for help. We're going to talk about this on other, you know, I'm sure upcoming episodes, because I don't believe that is any way to hold a strong container for people to heal. Mm-hmm. And then obviously patients and clients outsource authority. And then patients and clients often, like you and I have had conversations, if you remember, certain conversation at a dinner party in Oceanside, where I was being asked, how can you guarantee, if you're unlicensed, how can you guarantee when you're teaching people to do what you do and you're unlicensed and they're unlicensed, or, you know, how can you guarantee that they won't hurt people? And I'm like, how can anyone guarantee that anyone won't hurt anyone ever? Like, it's not possible.
Yeah.
And
that's why they have you sign your life away.
Exactly. Exactly. No matter, like, when I go to a gym, they make me sign my life away. You know, like, we're always signing our rights away and saying, I hold you not liable for anything that happens to me.
Yeah.
I want to advocate for a totally different relationship between client and practitioner, where both people say, I'm going to hold myself liable for my conduct and what I'm responsible for, which is, what I like. I won't do anything I don't feel is safe. But if something happens, let's repair it together. That's what I would like to see happen.
Yeah.
And
Responsibility.
So, yeah. And so what that means is then the client or patient has to not do anything that they don't think they should do.
Yeah.
That means sourcing authority from within. So that whole thing of outsourcing authority is one part of the licensure issue that I think is why the healing arts are broken. But another is that, like I mentioned, practitioners are legally forbidden to address their clients as whole human beings.
Yeah.
They're only allowed to address the part that they've been licensed to address.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening and wondering, like, well, how the heck do we get around that? We are free. We just don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
It is not illegal to be an unlicensed practitioner.
Yeah.
So, we might talk about that in future episodes. If you guys have any questions about that, put them in the comments, because maybe we'll record some episodes based around that. But I do plan on talking about it, in particularly on our kinetics series, because that's where I feel like I have the most responsibility to help people understand it's possible to be a kinetics practitioner where you address the whole human organism without a license. In fact, if you have a license, you probably shouldn't become a kinetics practitioner.
Yeah.
Because kinetics addresses the whole human organism by its nature.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, is that it? Did we cover everything? Do you have any lingering questions?
Yeah. There's one thing that kind of goes in line with all of this, and this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm just going to say it. What we're facing with this whole practitioners having to be licensed and the outsourcing of authority, and to go back even a layer further in the conversation, fear of pain phobia. People, I believe there are people who are aware of that phenomenon and set up structures and institutions to capitalize on it. And I think that a lot of the incentives that we see in healing and medicine are based on that awareness. It looks like it to me, because if you look at the outcomes, that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge problem. And I just felt like I needed to say it.
Well, we're going to talk about that on the podcast, but
Yeah.
a lot. Because when we have self-knowledge, like deep self-knowledge, when we as individuals know why we get sick, then we are not susceptible to being manipulated by the fear campaigns of drug companies and medical institutions and scientific institutions and government mandates and on and on and on. When we know what pain is and isn't, and we understand the true nature and purpose of pain, same thing. We're not going to be tempted by pain medication, by all of the quick fixes, the surgeries that are offered that are, unnecessary, the cortisone injections, and all of the alternative things that are kind of like gimmicky and not really addressing it at the root.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I guess this is like the point of the podcast and the school is, like, I want to inspire those of you listening to pursue deep self-knowledge. Because I want you to have the unshakable conviction based on self-knowledge of who you are, why your body does what it does, why you get sick when you get sick. And if you know why you get sick, you know how to heal, or you know that you can't do anything about it, because every once in a while you can't do anything.
Yeah.
In the case of like environmental issues, for example, sometimes you can't change the smart meters in your neighborhood or the EMFs from your environment. But you'll feel really empowered and you'll save a lot of money. You won't be chasing one remedy and modality after the next, seeking deliverance. That's my hope, is that you want to join us in turning towards pain in order to gain the self-knowledge needed to feel empowered to know exactly what to do each moment of your life. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end.
I think so. Yeah.
So more episodes to come, obviously, on everything that living science can illuminate. Our focus with this podcast is the human organism, the human being, gaining that self-knowledge I just talked about. If you want to join us for that adventure and you haven't subscribed yet and you're listening all the way to the end, well, thank you, and I hope you hit subscribe. Maybe give us a like. Definitely share in the comments what your experience is in the healing arts. If you agree that it's broken, if you want to be part of the solution, then just come hang out with us every week on the podcast, and you can learn more about everything we're doing behind the scenes at schoolforlivingscience.com. Thanks again. Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.